Hello, if you're watching this, hopefully your child is taking calculus from Mr. Resney at Incline High School. I am Mr. Resney, and this is just a short message designed to let you know what's going on in that class. What is the class about? Class is calculus. It's a completely different set of math from anything they've done before. It's akin to going from, say, multiplication to suddenly doing variables. It's a very large leap. Ironically, in many ways, it's actually an easy leap. The class itself, at least the arithmetic for the class, primarily the hardest stuff we do for the whole entire year are things like algebra 2 types ideas, okay, and some trigonometry. So in general, the math is not, the arithmetic piece of it is not that large. The trick of calculus, and the part that makes it hard, is that you're learning something completely different. You're going up a whole nother level, okay? And as you go up a whole nother level, that it's subtle. We're going to spend a lot of time in class debating, talking, thinking, coming up with theory about how calculus actually works. And that happens in class and for a large part verbally, not necessarily on sitting worksheets. And so the class, the hardest part of the class, is not the way a math class typically is. When you're sitting in a trig class, when you see a problem in front of you, and you go, oh, this thing's going to be terrible, it's really, really hard, and yes, you fill up a page, and that was what denotes a hard problem. In calculus, a hard problem can seem really simple on the surface, and then you start to look at it a little bit and go, wait a second, this actually is really interesting. And so, as a class, what does this mean in terms of your children? What I really worry about in calculus is a student getting behind, specifically with these conversations, these talks, these theories. Because oftentimes, if a kid misses a lot of class, what happens is they'll go to the friend and say, hey, how do I do these problems? Perfectly reasonable explanation, perfectly reasonable thing to do. And then they get a worksheet and they say, so just do this, move that number over here and call it a day. Okay, I'll do all the work. And they get all the work done, they're getting nothing but A's. They arrive on the day of the test, and they start to do the problem, you're like, I don't understand any of this. And then suddenly they're really far behind, not just a little behind, but a lot behind. So what I tell the kids and what I'm telling you is be there every day, be part of the conversations, and make certain that if you miss a conversation, you don't just look at the worksheet, you actually look at the conversation. And that is how you do calculus or do calculus well. What is it we'll be doing? We'll be basically doing, for most kids, we're going to do an AB course, which is basically the first semester of calculus. It's legitimately just like exactly what they're doing in college. The exception is, because I'm a high school teacher, because I have a whole year, I spend a lot of time on explaining what we're really doing. And I think, honestly, that's one of the best reasons to take it in high school. Which brings up a point. Why would a kid take calculus in high school? They offer it in college. I'm going to college. Why would I take it there? So there's two really good reasons, and they're the exact opposite of each other. One of them is I absolutely hate math and never want to take math again for the rest of my life. Please let me not take it. If you take calculus here, most colleges, if you get credit for this AB course, you never take math again. Some majors, you still have to take some mathematics, but for the most part, this is your math requirement taken care of, right? So if you're a fine arts major, and you really want to do some excellent work in fine arts, and you don't want to take a math class again, there's a way to get around that, and also really learn some really good math while you're at it. The second reason is you are really a math nerd, and you're going to use math the rest of your life. One of the advantages of being in high school and learning it in high school is we spend a lot of time talking about what is really going on, what's the depth, what's the undertone. Colleges are theoretically structured. And so therefore there's kind of a hinge on proofs and less on understanding, and less on what is actually going on, which is kind of really cool if you're going to be a math major, but not so good if you're going to be an engineer or anything outside of that that's still going to use calculus. So the truth of the matter is, this is a really good place to get your feet wet in calculus, is sitting in a high school class. And oftentimes it's kind of, for a math class, it's kind of weird because it's kind of fun, because we're doing things like, we can apply some math to things that like you just didn't think you could be done, and it's really powerful. And so there's a lot of good reasons to take calculus. Those primarily being with what's out there. What does a kid need? The kid needs very little. I'm going to be providing all the paper in advance. Um, um, COVID requirements. I'm actually printed out the first 3 months worth of paper, hole punched it, let it sit there a week, because that's how long I'm supposed to let it sit there. And so then the kids picked it up at the end of the week, and now they have the first 3-4 months worth of assignments. Probably 3 months is probably closer. Already in their notebook, okay, and they were just going to go. So they don't need to pick up anything from me. They don't have it. They had it. If they're home, they're sick, they're whatever, we go completely smoke crazy, or we go virtual because the disease is getting well out of control. We're ready to go. They have all the paper they need, and that will remain. As long as we're still in this realm where we might be doing this, I'll be putting out stuff months in advance for them. Okay, and they should have that throughout, and hopefully that'll take care of the paperwork piece of it. Now the class piece of it with the COVID-19 is a bit trickier. Half the class is in, half the class is home. But we have a point A and a point Z, and it's May. It's the first week in May. We're going to be taking the AP test. So there's no we get to extra time because it's a COVID year. So what's going to happen, what we're faced with when doing these sort of things, is we want, and by the way, we want the kids ready for college anyways, right? University. So we want to give them the full calculus experience if we can possibly pull it off. And so when they're at home, they're expected to log on at the time the class meets, at that same time, and be part of the class. They're expected to ask questions. They're expected to be able to ask them questions, okay? They can see what I'm writing on the whiteboard. They can hear the questions of the other students. There is, the gap between me seeing their faces and knowing what's going on there, so they have to be extra sensitive to the fact, I don't understand this, I need to ask more questions. So far, frankly, the class has been very good about that, and I'm kind of excited about how well that is going compared to where I thought it might go. Now, if a student goes virtual off the deep end, they're not paying attention, they're not being part of the conversations, as I just said before in calculus, and then I say that for every calculus class, but this year it's going to be weirdly important, even more important or more critical, is if they're not paying attention to virtual lessons, or they're going on family trips, whatever, when they should be paying attention to that class, it's going to cost them even more. Okay, and it's going to be really difficult for them to keep up, and they're going to get buried and be really far behind pretty fast. So I'm imploring you to figure out ways to get them to be there on time and be part of the conversation. And again, hopefully this will get better. Hopefully we won't be doing this for forever, and hopefully we will be able to keep up the pace. If a student gets really far behind, I'm probably going to advise them to drop the AP from their class. In fact, I'm going to ask them to drop the AP from their class. They'll stay in the class. I'll keep trying to teach them the calculus, but there's no reason to take an AP test when it's assuredly going to be a bad situation. And the calculus test, by the way, is reliable enough. We're going to be pretty sure. I mean, sometimes kids are right on 2, 3. We don't know if they're going to pass it or not. Kids that get a bunch behind because they aren't paying attention in class, and in this case, not paying attention digitally, will probably be really obvious. And we'll just, we'll set them aside and say, look, we'll keep working on the calculus with you, but it's not going to happen this year. And I'll warn them in advance that I see them heading that way, and then we'll have another conversation when they're pretty much there. And usually at that point, the kid knows they're there too, because they're like, people are talking strange stuff. Now, if they get behind, it doesn't mean they're buried. They can come in, especially if they come in early enough. I'm there. I haven't been there later than 6 a.m. any morning. They don't open the doors till 6:30, so if a kid wants to come in 6:30 to 7:30, they don't have to tell me they're coming. That's fine. Come on in. Get help. I'm there after school. Most lunches, except for Friday lunches, I'm sitting in their board. I'm perfectly happy to help a kid work. Okay. I expect to do a lot more of that this year. I haven't done as much as I expected so far, so feel free to have the kids come in. In addition to that, I have a schedule in the very back of the class where a kid can sign up for, hey, Mr. Resny, I need help, lunch. The only advantage of that is that I will know that they're going to be there, and I'll be hanging out at lunch instead of walking off to do something else. I will intentionally stay there for the kids. But again, they're welcome to come whether they sign up or not. If they sign up and they can't make it, it's not a big deal either. The calculus textbook is good, not great. Kid can get some help from it. Better getting help from me if they can. Better getting help maybe from Khan Academy. I be careful with Khan Academy. Some of the stuff there is designed for university students, therefore it's more theoretical than a high school level. Which it means it's the same, but it's just taught differently. It's a more structural way to do it. And there's that. If you see your kid going downhill and you think I can help, or even if you don't think I can help, but maybe it's worth a try, just send me an email. It's the easiest way to get hold of me is rresney@washingtonschools.net. All of the teachers' emails are at the school district site. At our high school site website. So just go there if you don't remember what it is. It's also on the syllabus that is also attached to this in some form or another. Normally at this point, I'd ask for questions. So if you got any, please feel free to send emails. I'm perfectly happy to answer them. Just remember, make sure the kids are there on the days when they're home. Okay, that's going to be key. And if you think your kid is drowning, if they're starting to say this calculus stuff's not making sense, get them in immediately, and we'll see if we can fix it before it gets out of control. Again, thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, please write me an email. Okay. And if you don't get an email back, by the way, within 2 days, something's happened. Send me another one, or yeah. Bye.